All right, y'all, listen up and listen close. In the next 15 seconds, I'm going to tell you how a box of my mama's old things led me to a truth so dark, it rewrote my entire life. This ain't just a story about a family secret. This is a story about a 30-year-old murder, a lie I called Daddy, and the man who watched it all happen from the inside. If you've ever wondered what skeletons are hiding in your own family's closet, you need to hear this. 'Cause sometimes, the past doesn't just haunt you. It waits for you to find it. My name is Jake. I'm 38 years old, born and raised in a speck-on-the-map town called Cedar Springs, just outside Abilene. My world was simple, built on the red dirt and hard work of a cattle ranch. The man I called my daddy, Carl, was a stoic, hard-handed son of a gun who taught me how to fix a fence, read the weather in the clouds, and never, ever back down from a fight. He wasn't a talker, but I never doubted he loved me. He was my rock. My mama, Lily, was the opposite, a burst of color in a gray landscape. She sang in the kitchen, filled the house with wildflowers, and had a laugh that could make the heat seem bearable. She died when I was 8 years old. The official report said it was a burglary gone wrong. They found her in the kitchen. No one was ever caught. Her death was the black hole my life orbited, the unsolvable mystery that defined my childhood. The man who raised me, Carl, he hardened after that. The grief turned him to stone. We never talked about her. It was like she'd been erased. I spent 30 years living with that silence, with that hole in my heart. Then, this past spring, a pipe burst in the attic of the old ranch house. I was up there, soaked and cussing, moving boxes, when I found it. A old, metal lockbox tucked behind some insulation. It wasn't Daddy's. It had my mama's name, Lily, painted on it in faded, flowery letters. My heart just about stopped right there. The lock was rusted shut. It took me a good 30 minutes with a crowbar to get it open. And inside, it wasn't jewels or money. It was her. Her diaries. Photographs. A dried corsage from what I guessed was her senior prom. And a single, folded piece of paper that would tear my world clean in two. It was a paternity test, dated a year before I was born. The names were there, clear as day. Subject A, Lily and Miller. Subject B, Samuel Joseph Vance. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. Samuel Joseph Vance. I'd never heard that name in my life. Carl Miller was the name on my birth certificate. Carl Miller was the man who raised me. But according to this piece of paper, my biological father was a stranger. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. You find a secret that rewrites your entire identity. What's the first thing you do? Do you confront the man who raised you? Do you go searching for this stranger? Let me know in the comments what your move would be. Confront Carl or find Samuel? I was torn, y'all. Absolutely torn. I chose to find Samuel. I had to. It felt like the only thread I had to pull. It took some doing, calling in favors, using one of those online people search sites. But I found him. Samuel Vance. Lived in a rundown duplex in Lubbock, about 2 hours away. Driving there, my hands were sweating on the wheel. What would I say? Hey, I think you're my real dad. It sounded like a bad movie. When I knocked on his door, an old man answered. He was thin, with watery blue eyes and a tremor in his hands. He looked broken. I introduced myself. My name is Jake Miller. My mother was Lily Miller. The moment I said her name, his face collapsed. He didn't look surprised. He looked guilty. He invited me in, his hands shaking so bad, he could barely pour us 2 glasses of sweet tea. I wondered if you'd ever come, he said, his voice a dry rasp. I knew about you. Lily told me she was pregnant. But her daddy, he was a mean old cuss. He forbid her from seeing me. Said I wasn't good enough. Then that fella, Carl, started coming around. From a good family, had a little land. Her daddy forced it. He told me he loved her, that he tried to fight for her, but she was scared. Scared of her daddy, scared of being cut off. So she married Carl, and she gave me his name. But that ain't the whole story, son, Samuel said, and his eyes got this far away, terrified look. The night she died, she called me. The air went out of the room. What? She called me, he repeated, whispering now. She was crying. Said she couldn't live the lie no more. She was going to tell Carl the truth. About you. About us. She was going to leave him. My blood ran cold. What happened? I heard a door slam over the phone, he said, his voice cracking. I heard her scream. And then, I heard a man's voice. I heard him say, "You think I'm going to let you take my boy from me? You think I'm going to let you shame me like this?" It was Carl, the man who raised me. The man who taught me how to be a man. Samuel was sobbing now, 30 years of terror finally pouring out. I heard it all, Jake. I heard the struggle. I heard the end of it. And then the line went dead. I was a coward. I was scared. I knew if I went to the cops, he'd kill me too. Or they'd pin it on me. So I ran. I've been running ever since. I sat there, in that shabby little living room in Lubbock, and my whole life just shattered. The bedrock I'd built my entire existence on was nothing but quicksand. The man I called Daddy wasn't just a stern, grieving widower. He was a murderer. He killed my mother to keep me. And the man who was my real father had been a witness, too terrified to speak. Now, I need you to think about this. What do you do with a truth like that? The man who raised you is a killer. The father you never knew is a coward. Where does your loyalty lie? In the blood? Or in the man who fed you, clothed you, raised you? Even if it was all built on a foundation of murder? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is a heavy one, and I appreciate y'all wrestling with it. Confronting Carl was the hardest thing I've ever done. I drove back to the ranch, that paternity test burning a hole in my pocket. He was out on the back 40, mending a fence, just like always. The picture of an honest, hardworking man. I walked up to him, and I didn't say a word. I just held out the test. He took it, his rough, calloused hands wiping the grime from his glasses. He read it. His face didn't change. He just slowly folded the paper back up and handed it to me. "Where'd you find this?" he asked, his voice flat. "Does it matter?" I said, my own voice trembling with a rage I didn't know I possessed. "Samuel Vance told me what happened, Carl. He heard it all. On the phone. And then, the dam broke on Carl Miller. For 30 years, he'd held it in. The story poured out of him, not with anger, but with a desperate, twisted grief. I loved her, Jake," he said, his eyes pleading. "I loved her more than anything. And when she told me she was going to leave, take you, that you weren't even mine, I saw red. It wasn't supposed to happen. We argued. She fell. She hit her head on the corner of the countertop." He looked down at his hands. "It was an accident. But I panicked. I made it look like a break-in. An accident. For 30 years, I'd lived with the horror of a violent murder, and he was calling it an accident. You took my mother from me." I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "You let me live my whole life not knowing who I was. You let a town think a monster was on the loose. And you let Samuel Vance live in hell, all to protect yourself." He didn't deny it. He just stood there, an old, broken man, finally exposed. I turned my back on him that day. I walked away from the ranch, from the only life I'd ever known. The police have reopened my mama's case. It's a mess of old evidence and he said, she said, and I don't know if Carl will ever see the inside of a jail cell. But in my heart, I know the truth. So, there you have it. The man who raised me wasn't my father, and my mother's killer knew it. He knew it the whole time. He looked me in the eye every single day and saw the living proof of his own sin. This truth, it didn't set me free. It locked me in a different kind of prison. But at least now, I'm not living in someone else's lie. And that's my final question for y'all, and I truly value your input. Could you have turned him in? Could you have sent the man who changed your diapers and taught you to drive to prison? Let me know in the comments. Justice for Lily, or let it go? I read every single one. If this story shook you, if it made you question the stories you've been told, then I need you to do one thing for me. Share this video. Share it with your friends, your family. Because secrets like this, they fester. And the truth, no matter how ugly, deserves to see the light of day. Thanks for listening. I'm Jake, from Texas. Hold your loved ones close, but hold the truth closer. I'll see y'all in the next story.